You're listening to the A.C.E.S Junkyard Podcast with Cattra Kell on Comstar Radio.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Armored Combat Escalation Service Podcast, episode 19. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015. We didn't have an episode yesterday as per scheduled usual due to my absence. For some people that don't know, I'm currently on vacation, so I spent the first couple days visiting my parents, something I don't usually do, so it was nice to see them. I'm sure some of you older guys with kids might appreciate some of that sentiment of a younger man visiting his parents. So with me today, I got Tierkron as always. How's it going, Tierkron?
Always good.
I'm going to horribly pronounce this, and I'm going to apologize. I got Elwana, I think.
Elwana.
How's it going, guy?
Good, how about you?
Yeah, pretty good. And I got one of the lone wolves here with us. He's not an ACES member. But Ozzy Trev joining us for the podcast. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
So, as with usual, a couple things. If you're going to add something to a topic we're talking about, just X up in the chat. Of course, I got sounds disabled, so I'll call you in if you want to say something about the topic and whatnot. So, let's hop right into our general talk section of the podcast. Of course, first things first, we had a couple new mechs released last Tuesday, I think? Or Tuesday before?
Yes, last Tuesday.
Yeah. We had the Cauldron Born and the Gladiator both released, clan mechs respectively, and I think 2 weeks from now, we got Shadowcat and Arctic Cheetah. I think it's 2 weeks.
It's going to be on the 21st. So
yeah,
not 2 weeks.
Like a month away.
Yeah, it's a month away.
Fun stuff there. But let's go on with it. The first impressions of the Cauldron Born and Gladiator. Anyone want to step up the bat there first?
Well, in case people are wondering what we're talking about, they're named in-game Executioner and Ebon Jaguar because that's their clan termed names. Though Ebon Jaguar, if you're a lore junkie, actually almost never gets used because the Smoke Jaguars who developed it, which is the Cauldron Born, didn't deploy it and kept it secret all the way up until the Battle of Luthien, which was the battle for the Draconis Combine's capital, and so they deployed it for the first time ever there. It was even hidden from the other clans, so no one had any idea what this new mech was. The Kell Hounds encountered it first and named it the Cauldron Born, giving it that foe designation, and because of that, the Nova Cats picked up on it, and they transmitted the data and the new name out to the other clans, and all the other clans started calling it Cauldron Born, not Ebon Jaguar, which was much to the chagrin of the Smoke Jaguars, and they were never able to shake that Inner Sphere designation. So the only clan that actually calls it Ebon Jaguar, the proper name for it, is the Smoke Jaguars. So neat little tidbit there that is in the fluff of the lore and everything. But as for the mechs themselves, Ebon Jaguar is definitely the big winner of the two. It is a phenomenally fun mech to run. It's like running the Timberwolf, except it's a bit shorter. It's squatty. It's a bit wider. It's 65 tons as opposed to 75 tons. But you can do a lot of the same builds that you do on the Timberwolf that you can. But the best part about it is the high torso mounts for some of the weapons. You can you can put a Gauss rifle, you can put an autocannon, you can put high mounted energy, you can put a high mounted missile. They are very versatile. So it's become a very good poke mech with being able to, pop over a hill, keep most of your hull, down in cover, get off that quick shot, and then duck back in before, you have return fire. But I have yet to see, any really, poorly thought. Well, actually, I'll take that back. I have seen some very poorly thought out builds. People mixing and matching a lot of odd systems. I've seen a 4-streak 6 mech where the person just had 4-streak 6 on no tag and just filled everything else out with ammo, and probably not the best, not the best mech to have no backup weapons on. You can do it, but you are not supported by the rest of your team. You're gonna get your head handed to you. Executioner, on the other hand, Executioner is definitely more of a skill, high skill tiered mech. It's comparable, I would say, to the Inner Sphere Highlander. It's, well, predominantly because of the jump jets. It doesn't have the best jumping profile, even though it has 4 hard-mounted jump jets. You think it should be able to jump better than it does, and it just can't. The weapon selection on it is a little lackluster. Predominantly, it's either all energy or a mix of ballistic and energy. Mostly, people are using the right arm and the right torso to mount weapons. Very few are using the left side at all. That's predominantly due to the lack of a good omnipod for the left torso, and just the fact that even the left arm is kind of lackluster. You either have missiles, you have ballistic, or you have a energy, and it's just not there for most people to use. But that said, the higher skilled players are using it to great effect because they can easily build asymmetrical builds, which, if you're a high tier player, that's kind of what you do. You have a shield side, for lack of a better term. Uh, and so not having anything over in that torso or that arm, allows you to concentrate everything on one side and shield with that other side. So it's not a bad mech. I've seen a number of people pilot it very well, but it is definitely something that you do not just jump into and immediately start scoring kills with. It does have a greater learning curve to it than the Jag does. So overall, both of them pretty good mechs. One's harder to use than the other, but you know, we kind of want a more skilled uh, base game overall, so I think it works out.
I was about to say, definitely the Cauldron-born, the Ebon Jaguar, is the biggest winner out of the mechs that were released. I mean, for your according to MetaMechs, which it's turned into one of my go-to sources for combination of mech builds and just seeing what sort of mechs I might enjoy playing in a little bit more of a competitive setting. I mean, for long range, the Cauldron-born got placed in tier 1. For medium range, it got placed in tier 1. The Executioner got placed in tier 2. And for short range, again, Cauldron-born found its way into tier 2. So you'll probably see, I don't know if they're going to replace Timberwolves. Let's see here. Maybe if it really came down to a tonnage thing, you might see them getting picked over Timberwolves. But even then, compared with a Hellbringer, I don't know. Do you think the ECM is going to make a big difference, or do you think people will be taking the Cauldron-born because of its hitboxes and squat profile over the Hellbringer if it came down to having to pick a 65-ton mech?
I would say most people are going to pick the Jag. They're going to pick the Cauldron-born due to the hitboxes and the geometry of the mech. While the Hellbringer does bring the ECM, its hitboxes seem larger than the Cauldron-borns. The torsos feel a lot more vulnerable than the Cauldron-borns. That said, the Cauldron-born and the Hellbringer both seem to share a squishy center torso. So it's it's one of those it's one of those things where it might come down to personal preference and what is the need for the match. If you are not if it's a match where ECM's not going to be a factor, then yeah, I say the Ebon Jaguar, the Cauldron Born is going to be the go-to rather than the Hellbringer. If it's one where tonnage is not an issue, I don't think the Cauldron Born will get picked over the Timberwolf per se, mainly because the Timberwolf does bring a bit more armor. It has the same speed profile, and can, as I said earlier, Cauldron Born and Timberwolf basically can bring almost the exact same loadouts. Slight difference there being that you might have to tweak the loadout on the Timberwolf a little bit due to hard-coded jump jets in some of the omnipods, which limit it a little bit more than say the Cauldron Born does. But having those jump jets give those Timberwolves a greater bit of agility and the ability to go into areas where the Cauldron Born just simply can't go. So it's really a trade-off of what you need and what the necessity of the match requires.
I agree. I mean, let's also talk about the Gladiator as well, or the Executioner. I think it's a really solid mech. I think one of the shining triumphs of this, and this will be kind of transitioning into our next topic, is MASC. I really enjoy how MASC was implemented. I think last podcast I talked about how it should be a bar that slowly recharges. I think the recharge time on it's perfectly reasonable as it currently is, and if you use it too much, I mean, the penalties are there horribly. But I think as far as the Executioner goes, I think MASC is a great thing for it. You're easily able to bring it up to speed, and even then push it maybe a little bit over, just simply by tapping MASC for a couple seconds, and it definitely makes it one of those mechs where you can, in the right situation, of course this is saying all mechs in the right situation, but I find with the Executioner in particular, that in the right situation, those small lasers or small pulses that you're bringing on that laser fist, really comes into play, and you can bring them into range a lot easier. So I'm kind of excited to see that. Mainly, that being said, I'm not sure how well it's going to bode for the Shadow Cat, because the Shadow Cat really doesn't have a lot of pod space. I mean, you got jump jets. Let me take this back to the Gladiator real quick. The Gladiator, you got some versatility. You got jump jets and MASC taking up space, but you still have a lot of pod space at the end of the day that you can cram 12 if you really wanted to. I think you can cram 13 medium lasers in there and still put in a couple heat sinks. I've seen people slamming in Gauss rifles and medium lasers. I think the Metamex variant has, I think some like 5 medium pulses and 2 large pulses, something like that. You got some pod space. Point is, you got some pod space in there that you can play with and have absolutely no problem with doing that. Whereas with something like the upcoming Shadow Cat, you got 45 ton mech. So time you get your armor on there, your engine takes up speed. Time you have your dedicated jump jets and your MASC. Really, realistically speaking, you don't have a lot of pod space to kind of play with. You'd probably be able to cram 1 Gauss rifle onto there, and maybe 1 or 2 tons, 3 tons, and maybe a medium laser.
Well, there is an actual build with the Shadow Cat that actually has a Gauss rifle as stock. That's the Prime, actually. It's got a Gauss rifle and 2 medium lasers with 2 tons of ammo. It does have an active probe that you could pull out to add in an extra ton of ammo. But, in terms of free tonnage to play around in, it doesn't have as much, mainly because even though it has endosteel, it has ferrule fibers, and it has a Clan XL. So you think it has a lot of tonnage to play with, and it actually doesn't. It's
a lot of
bit more limited.
Crit slots locked away.
Yeah. You also have the issue of with its omnipods, unlike with say the Stormcrow, the and many of the other very highly regarded Omni mechs that the clans use. The Shadowcat is, at least for the way PGI has structured them for MWO, have much more limited hard points in their Omnipods. There are only 2 builds with Omnipods that have more than one hard point in them, and one of them are the left and right arm of the B variant, which have an energy and missile slot in both the left and right arm for the B, and for the Shadowcat P, which has 3 ballistic in both its left arm and left torso.
And that's an all ballistic variant as well, because in the right arm you only got 1 ballistic, so in total you got 7 ballistic potentials there. So 7 machine guns, everybody. I know that's what I'm going to be running in it.
Yeah. Well, that one comes with 6 machine guns and 1 Gauss rifle. So
yeah,
that's,
I mean, like I'm gonna rip out that Gauss rifle because Gauss rifles are useless, totally dead meta. I'm gonna put in the seventh machine gun, and then I'm going to. Well, there's no way I can get an 8th machine gun in there. Damn it!
No,
I wanted my piranha. I wanted my piranha.
Well, that requires 12 machine guns. So.
Shh, I want to believe. I want to believe. PGI, please. Wave 4 piranha. 4 piranhas.
But I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem with the Shadowcat. I don't think it's going to be able to compete with the Stormcrow as well.
Top tier meta type thing. The way I always pictured the Shadowcat and how it's going to be played at the end of the day, I always pictured the Shadowcat is going to be the clan's version of the Cicada. It's going to be able to move around real quick. It's going to be able to do some sneaky peeky, cheeky breaky shooting stuff. And it's going to be able to get away real quick. It's going to be hit and run tactics. I don't see it becoming a big meta mech. I don't see it doing anything like that. Where I see it is potentially in comp leagues that, like, shameless plug, the A.C.E.S tournament where you're going to be banning mechs. Run hot or die, where there might be weight limits as well as mech selection type thing, and that sort of thing. In the free reign comp leagues, I don't see it having a role on the battlefield. Unfortunately, it's going to be a fun mech to take, and at the end of the day, that's all it's going to be. It's going to be a fun mech.
Well, I think it's it has potential as a long range sniper, much like the you can do with the Cicada and the Raven 3L. Knowing that it has MASC allows you to duck in and out of of cover very fast. Using just my Executioner with the MASC, I was able to outpoke a Raven 3L, which should not have been possible for an assault mech to do. Ducking back and forth between cover, but I was able to do it because every time he got me lined up to fire, I would engage my MASC and zip backwards into cover just as he was about ready to fire, and so then I'd pop back out the same time with my MASC still engaged, let loose with my PPCs, and I was just ripping him apart from range when he really was not expecting it. He was those Raven 3Ls don't expect any other mech really to be engaging them in that type of a fight except for another Raven 3L. So the Shadowcat has that potential there. It's going to be able to outpoke a Raven 3L. It's going to be able to outpoke a Cicada 3M with the ECM that it can carry. That's going to be a major help to it. It's not going to be the brawling Cicada where you've got 6 medium pulse. So, but those those extra ballistic slots of the P, you might have something instead where you get in close and you just open up with a lot of UAC 2s or something, and then you run away and you just keep rinsing and repeating that, ducking in and out of combat, opening up backs, ripping off torsos, things like that. So I do agree that I don't think it's going to be a top tier meta mech, but I think players are going to find good roles for it to handle, and it's going to be utilized, especially over what is the current 45 tonner for the clans, the Ice Ferret. I think the Shadow Cat is going to probably replace it in most drop decks.
Well, let's bring us back into MASC. What was your initial thoughts on MASC? I know myself personally, I thought, again, like I said earlier, I think it was implemented fairly well. It's exactly what I was kind of hoping for as far as MASC implementation goes. What are your thoughts? Do you think it was brought in well, or do you think that it could be done better, or worse?
No, I kind of like how they've implemented it. It's pretty close to what I wanted. The way it gets used up, and that damage factor increases the longer you hold it down. Works very well. The way it charges and then cools down is very well done. I do think that maybe the uh, the chart, at least for the executioner, it might charge up a little too quickly. The fact that you can take from standing still, engage the mask, and be suddenly going almost top speed, uh, it might need to be, have that, the acceleration that it applies might need to be tuned down a little bit if you don't already have some forward momentum going. But that's something that is probably very reliant on how the game is coded, so that might not be something they can actually do, or at least not do easily. So uh, overall, I'm happy with it. I don't think it's going to be abused. It seems to be well implemented. The real question is, how is it going to be applied in the future to other mechs? Is it going to be, something that you can apply to any mech, regardless of, tonnage and type, or is it something like with ECM, you have to have a specific slot that you can put it into in order to utilize it? I don't know. That will be something interesting to see how PGI continues development. But overall, right now, don't have really any major complaints about it.
I think my biggest thing I got out of MASC is, does this mean we're getting the flea? And if so, sign me up for 20. All but seriousness though, I mean the flea was what, mech number 7 announced or something like that. It was very early into MWO.
Yeah.
MASC finally has a way that it's being used. I don't know if the flea, because I'm pretty sure they said they don't have a way still for lights to use it because it would break the speed cap or whatever.
Yeah, that's one of those weird things
Yeah,
because
I don't know. I haven't looked really much into it or read much into it either. But that being said, what about mask quirks for the flea so it can use it longer, perhaps?
uh,
Maybe that would be a trade-off.
I don't know. Stock the if with the stock build of the flea, you have it only goes 97 without mask engaged. Once mask is engaged, it goes up to 119. It is built already on an endo steel chassis, and but the engine is a standard engine, so I could easily see people ripping the standard out and throwing an XL in order to have a bigger engine. Uh, that's one of those things where it gets into something of an odd area because you throw a large enough XL engine in there, depending on what the engine cap is for that particular mech. Once you engage the mask, it might throw the mech over whatever the cap is. I think someone said the speed cap is like around 170, 171 kph, and that anything exceeding that gives the servers problems. But I don't don't quote me on that as being 100% accurate. I can just vaguely remember Russ or someone saying that at one point in time. That might have changed. We don't know. Uh, And right now, with the way MASC is being utilized on the Executioner and will be utilized on the Shadowcat, this could be PGI's attempt, basically to do testing on, how MASC works, how, it's received, and look into, what mechs do you start bringing out that possibly have it like the flea, and, is it actually feasible? What problems do you now have to overcome after, this implementation's already been done? It's it it's questions that I can't answer, and that PGI hopefully will eventually be able to.
Answer or we riot, PGI. So talking about mech mechanics and equipment, let's take a segue into jump jets and jump jet mechanics. Mainly, I want to talk about the Executioner, how I think it could become a tier 1 meta mech if the jump jets were better. Mainly because that's taken up pod space. And I know a lot of people argued that clan mechs should be able to take the jump jets and MASC and equipment off, and I say, this might be a little bit controversial. So those with young children, I advise, please have them leave the room. But my opinion is no. Make them be locked in there. Mainly because that's how clan mechs work. That's kind of one of the balancing points of clan mechs. And as much as, yes, I would love to rip those jump jets out of the Executioner, because right now they're kind of garbage. Let's be real. They're trash. That being said, I don't think we should be allowed to remove them. I think I'd rather have PGI take a better look at the jump jet mechanics that are currently in the game, and mainly how they really punish the assault mechs. Mainly, number one for the longest time was the Victor was a big jump jet user. It still is a jump jet user. There's no way top meta anymore for jump jets, but it's by far one of the best assault mechs that goes for jump jets. But Highlander all the time. I mean, even now the joke's that the Highlander's got hover feet or hover jets. It doesn't have jump jets. It has hover jets. Even if you put all of them in, if you take up all 4, 5, 6 tons or something like that.
Yeah,
it still can't jump. I think the same can be said with the with the Gladiator Executioner. Because you have all of them locked in there. You can't add any more. That's one of the ways that clan mechs are made. But right now you're just hovering, unless you use MASC and you get a nice running jump. But even then, you don't get any height. You get distance, but you don't get any height. I would definitely love to. I think right now, as far as light mechs and medium mechs and even some heavy mechs go, jump jets work perfectly fine. Of course, everyone can find some outliers. I think for the longest time, the Timberwolf had some problems with jump jets. But then again, I don't think the Timberwolf really needs a hand at being one of the best mechs in the game.
Yeah.
I
actually saw
what's your thoughts here?
I saw a posting a while back, and I've been trying to find it since then, that someone did some serious testing with the Assault class jump jets, which are jump jets class 1. Those who are not aware, class 1 jump jets are actually 2 tons each. So the Highlander, if you're running 3 jump jets on it, that's 6 tons that you've invested in there. If you're the version of the Highlander that can run the most jump jets is the heavy metal with 5. So that, right there is 10 tons of space that's being used. And even if you fill up all 10 tons of that space, as we've said before, it can't jump. It has almost no jump capability. It can barely clear small, obstacles. It cannot get up. The best example, from a standing low point on canyon network next to a canyon wall, it cannot fully jump up on top of of the canyon wall, to get up there if there's not a path for it to climb, which is a major, disadvantage. It should be able to at least get up on top of the those type of, geographical obstacles. The posting, though, what they had done was they compared the thrust rates and how quickly the burn time is and how quickly the meter depletes, and they found that between class 1 and class 2 jump jets, class 2 being found predominantly in the heavy tier mechs, and I think the Victor might have them. Yes, the Victor has class 2 jump jets. That between the class 2 and the class 1s, the class 1s are at they're at a twice the level of disadvantage compared to class 2s. That it takes twice as long for them to achieve the max thrust. They burn you know twice as fast through the meter, even if you have the same amount of comparable jump jets. So if you have 4 class 2s versus 4 class 1s, those class 2s are doing twice as well as the class 1s are. And it's night and day, and you can tell even right now running a Victor versus a Highlander, the Victor can still jump somewhat. It's not as good as it was back in the day of the Pop-Tart meta, but it's still enough that the Victor is maneuverable. It can clear obstacles. It can, get over terrain that it needs to, where the Highlander just can't.
Yeah, I believe it's enough that I think the Victors, if you look at any of the current meta, like it's not top tier meta, but people that are still running like Victors in their meta decks, I think still has 1 or 2 jump jets on it. I think it's like two AC5s, 2 large lasers, and 2 jump jets or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's still viable to run jump jets in a Victor.
So, and the the person whoever had written it up had done a lot of work figuring out the mechanics of jump jets and basically saying to PGI, the way improve this is basically take some of these things off, these negatives off the class 1 jump jets, get them back to it basically to be the same gradual inline that the rest of the jump jets all have. That you know 5s are better, are one bit better than 4s. 4s are one bit better than 3s. 3s are one bit better than 2s, and then 2s are one bit better than class 1s. Right now 2s are 2 times better than class 1s. Not one step above, they're 2 steps above. So the class 1s have been knocked down, you know, much farther than they should have actually been. So they I think, if PGI just brings them back up so that they're in that same gradual decreasing, one step at a time line, it will solve a lot of the issues. You'll still need, you still won't be able to have the same amount of, you know, good jumping ability by just having a single jump jet or 2 jump jets. You'll need it like at least 3, but it'll be worth to actually have them, because as it stands right now, there's no reason to take jump jets on your Highlander because they're worthless. You can't use them. The And for the Executioner, I know in a lot of the uh, preview vids for it, they were showing, oh look, it can jump. It can, with MASC engaged, it can jump this far from the top of the HPG dish platform all the way over to the wall. I've tried recreating it, and you barely, even with MASC, can barely do it most of the times, because you have to time your jump just right so that you can get almost your max amount of height, and then everything else is just using the jump jets to maintain you at that height. So it is completely reliant upon speed to get you there, not the jump jet's ability. So it's a major failing, I would say, the in the tier 1, the class 1, I should say, not tier, class 1, jump jet, that it is pretty much worthless at this point in time to carry. BGI really needs to go back. They can't just simply quirk it away using a jump jet quirk for the mech. It's got to be a mechanics change for that particular class of jump jet.
And like I said, the other ones are perfectly fine. Or at least I find it perfectly fine. Some people could probably find a gripe or two with them, but the other ones I feel perfectly all right, in line with most light mechs can jump perfectly fine. You don't even require all the jump jets. I think most meta builds have, 2 or 3? And even then, they're only, half a ton? So it's not that... I mean, crit space-wise, it might be a bit of a deal, because you usually on light mechs throw on both Endo and Pharaoh.
Yeah, I believe Class 5 and Class 4 are half tons. Class 3 and Class 2 are 1 ton, and Class 1 is 2 tons, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think it really is the Class 1s that need a relook at. I think all the other ones are fine. I don't think they need another look at as well. But I think we all can agree there that hopefully jump jets are improved, mainly for assault mechs. So let's move on to our next topic of the Grumpy Old Men cast. Champion mech final votes are on the way. I guess this is a big deal for some people. For a lot of people, I think it's a big deal. But for me personally, I still think champion mechs are a waste of money, and I see no benefit from them. So it's in my folder of not giving enough of a shit. But what's your takeaway of this, Tierkron?
I have to say I'm not all that worried about it. I don't utilize champion mechs unless there's something I've won in an event of some sort. I think I have right now 4, maybe 5 champions. I know I've got a champion. I've got a champion Centurion, a champion Hunchback, a champion Thunderbolt, a champion Victor, and I think that might be it, because they came due to a weekend event or some other event that I participated in, and I ended up winning it as a prize from it, and they're all right. I usually end up stripping them down and either not using them because I either have the base mech for it already, or I use it as a secondary for that base mech, like the Thunderbolt, the SE. I've got 2 different builds for it. I've got the large pulse laser build for it, and then another one I've got a slightly different large pulse laser build for it. So it's they're not very important to me, but then again, I've been playing since closed beta, so my approach to a lot of mechs is very different from other players. For a player that's just getting started with MWO, that's where the appeal of champion mechs really lies. They're a mech that a new player can jump in. The champion's been tweaked enough that it's not going to put them on the same equipment level as as a veteran pilot, but it's going to level the playing field a little bit, enough where they have a better fighting chance than just running in, say, a stock Banshee 3M, or a stock Jaeger mech, or a stock Victor 9S, or a stock Shadowhawk 2H. Running a champion build, the champion version of the mech gives them a bit better equipment boost. But for a veteran player, it's nothing new. You probably already have that mech, and you probably already have a build on it that is the same level as the champion build or better. And looking at a lot of the proposed rebuilds for the champions, a lot of them, they're basically the meta builds. They are verbatim the builds that you will find on MetaMechs and on mech specs, and that you will see most top veteran players running on those mechs if you see them actually in them. There's really not a whole lot of difference between them. So I'm gonna from a new player perspective, it's going to be useful. From a veteran player standpoint, it's one of those things of where we kind of just shrug our shoulders and go, we really don't care one way or the other about them.
Yeah, pretty much. I gotten all my champion mechs only through the events. I've never bought one, never had an interest in buying one. I think I've go on this rant once a podcast, so I think with that we can move on to our next topic. But yeah, no, it's exciting, I guess. I guess the biggest thing I get out of the champion mech and the voting and stuff like that is at least it's a way for the community to talk to PGI directly and give feedback. I guess that's the most beneficial thing out of the champion mechs. Again, unless you're a brand new player, I don't see a benefit of the champion mechs. Again, not going to buy one myself. Don't see a point in buying one. But I guess if you're a new player and you're only stuck with the champion/trial mechs, I guess it's good in that way. At least they're getting decent mechs to start out with and start their grind.
And considering that the champions are used as the trials, that's helpful for a new player. If a new player is buying a mech pack, a champion is included in that mech pack along with the hero and basically the tier 1 of that mech. So it's they're useful in that sense, but it's pretty much aimed at the newer players. It's not something aimed at you, me, Elwana, a number of other more veteran players that are already well familiar with these mechs and with the game itself.
So let's move on to, I noticed Tina, which is the MWO community manager, opened up a Instagram for MechWarrior Online, and I just say there's some really, really great stuff on there. So if you guys aren't following MWO on Instagram, I highly suggest it. But I mean, a couple of things that she posted on there, there's a couple sneak peeks and a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I hope that continues because that's the stuff I really like to see. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scene. I think there's the Shadow Cat powering down, powering up animations. I mean, they're not textured yet, but you actually see the animations. We had a sneak peek at destructible environments, which is lampposts being destroyed, and we've also seen dynamic lighting, so day-night cycles, and how also the lamp lights in the new, was it River City?
Yes.
Is actually going to be dynamic. So when it gets dark out, the lamp posts all turn on, and then you blow them up, and it comes dark again. So that's actually really exciting to see. And so yeah, congrats. I think that's a really beneficial thing because I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoy seeing the behind the scenes stuff, little sneak peeks, that sort of thing on stuff going on, even if it is a couple seconds long.
Yeah. The problem was, I guess Tina made a post about this, about MWO being on Instagram for these, kind of like behind the scenes snapshots and short clips. She made it in the developers corner, which something like this, I feel like that should have gotten a news post. It should have been on the front page because most people that would have been that are interested in seeing something like that, they don't necessarily delve into the forums and into the developers corner to find that. So it could have, I think it could have been posted out front, and that would draw more attention to it. But I'm glad to see this effort to show off what's going on, what progress is being made, and to give us little teasers beyond just the developer vlogs. It's it's very good to see this level of interaction between a developer and its community and its gaming community. Some of the videos are quite neat. The as we said, the dynamic lighting, the lighting cycles, the destructible environment, things that we have been clamoring for years now. It feels like to finally see them is a great feeling. It's almost undescribable for being a MechWarrior fan to see these make their return or to make their debut. There's also a very funny video where a lot of people are already aware that in the death animation, the Cauldron Born can sometimes twig out and will look like it's breakdancing. There is a very funny video that shows the Executioner doing this, but instead of doing it on a battlefield after it's been blown up, it shows it doing it in the Mechlab, just where you're looking at when you're applying the camouflage to it. It was one of the little bugs apparently they came across when you applied the camo to the Executioner. It started, freaking out. So those little things like that are nice little touches.
I agree. It's stuff like that I'm always excited to see. Because again, I like getting a sneak peek into stuff behind the scenes, whether it be bugs and that sort of stuff. Just little neat oddities that you wouldn't see normally. So let's talk about what's coming up on the July 7th patch, which is we finally have 2 new hero mechs, both coming out on the same day, and they are the Wolverine and the Thunderbolt, which we've been promised long ago. They are finally coming. I have no idea what they are. I have no idea what even they're going to do for them. We can speculate. For the Wolverine, I'm not going to lie, I want the Wolverine back. I don't even care if it's a hero mech or not. I'm sure people will get up in arms and cry and threaten to burn down PGI's office if they do that, but the Wolverine was a fun mech. And it wasn't overpowered. It really wasn't. It was different. But it was no means overpowered. Once you lost that arm, that was game over. You were done. You gotta protect that arm at all costs. It was a mech that, if you knew how to pilot it and pilot it well and knew all the tricks of like torso twisting and stuff like that, you could get a really good score. And it was also one of those mechs that if you take if you take 2 ghost rifles in the arm of the wrong arm, first thing in the match, you were done for the rest of the game. It was a very risk-reward mech, and it was a lot of fun to play. That's all I'm going to say. So if we get the Wolverine back, even if all the weapons aren't in the arm, if you get 4 hard points, 1 or 2 in each arm or something like that, and it's got a large pulse laser quirk or something like that, I'd be happy with that. Something fun to play with.
Something different.
Something different, exactly. Thunderbolt.
My only fear is that basically that the hero version is going to be a heavy missile carrying Wolverine, similar to the Trebuchet. Which, if that's the case, I think that'd be the worst move they could make for a hero mech of that tonnage, because there's just no need for that. That mech is never going to get utilized. Some people are going to pick it up. The diehards that need every single mech in their stable, they're going to pick that mech up. But beyond that, most people are not going to give that thing a second look. If that's the case, it's not something that really has a role for that weight class anymore. There are mechs that already do it and do it well. I don't know. We'll have to see what develops with the Wolverine. As you said, yeah, I'd like to kind of see that high risk, high reward of the Wolverine return. But it could be something completely different. We don't know. There's been no inkling. The only thing that we know is that they are coming. They were the roadmap post about them was updated today, I believe.
Yeah,
with it.
Today.
So it's just making its rounds on the forums. I believe Reddit's picked it up. So people are all abuzz about, speculating what's going to be the hero version of the Wolverine, what's going to be the hero version of the Thunderbolt, what's going to come on them. Are we going to will PGI do this? Will PGI do that? And people saying, oh no, they won't do this because that's pay to win, or they won't do that because that's just stupid.
You're dumb and your opinion's done, and I hate you.
Yeah, the usual internet banter. So I don't know. I'm actually very curious about this because it kind of goes back to when hero mechs were first being teased, when they first started debuting. They would say we're going to have a hero mech for this mech chassis type, and we're not going to tell you what exactly it is until the day it gets released. And some of them you could guess immediately, and they didn't they didn't play around with it. Like the Yenlo Wong with the Centurion. As soon as they said, "Yeah, we're going to do our first hero mech, it's going to be the Centurion," everyone's immediately like, yeah, "It's a Yenlo Wong." It's the Yenlo Wong. There's no other Centurion as well known in BattleTech. In fact, I don't think there's, in terms of the lore, that there is any mech as popular or as well known in the
As
lore as an
infamous.
individual as Yenlo Wong. It is the mech that any person who's ever read a BattleTech novel, who's
Well, the
ever
thing
read,
is that
played
that thing's
tabletop, will immediately be able.
transcended generations. I
Yeah,
mean, even in Dark Age, the Enlo Wang was still around.
yeah.
It was Kai's, I think, granddaughter who piloted it.
No,
I mean,
it's his niece.
niece, sorry, yeah. But I mean, even in 3100, 100,
Yeah.
200 years, it's still around and it's still fighting on the front lines. So, I mean, that thing's never going away.
Yeah, so it's
Actually, if I think if
quite
they
a
ever
big
bring
twist.
out another novel series again, I think if they really want to tug heartstrings, destroy the Enlo Wang. Have it absolutely wrecked in combat in some heroic way.
So, uh, we'll have to see. I and that go. I'd love to see a return of the novels. I just don't know if Catalyst was ever gonna really do that. They're kind of doing these small PDF novels.
Well, they also have their because I picked up the recent one. They have their Battle Corp anthologies.
Yes.
Those are actually published in hard copy because I got them all. But I don't think anything else gets an actual hard copy release aside from TROs anymore. But
Yeah.
I would love to see them try to bring out a new book series or something like that again. But that's
so
that's a if I won $1 million and I could fund something type of dream.
yeah. What right now I think my favorite speculation though for the two here for the Thunderbolt and Wolverine hero mechs is a call to the Kell Hounds as a unit, because two of the most notable pilots for
Well,
the
didn't
Thunderbolt
didn't
and
Christian
Wolverine.
Kell pilot a Thunderbolt?
Yes. Well, the Thunderbolt has well, let's start with the Wolverine. The most notable pilot in BattleTech for the Wolverine is Salem Ward Kell, who is the mother of Phelan Kell and the wife of Morgan Kell. So she's kind of important. She disappears after the Warrior trilogy. You never really, see a lot of her after that. She has some small passing references, but she apparently is a very, very adept Wolverine pilot. The Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt is got a couple more notable pilots to it, but the big one for the Kellhounds is Patrick Kell, and uh, the second one is supposed to be is Christian Kell, which is his son. So the you have some good tie-ins there with the Kellhounds for those two mechs, which they don't really have a write-up in the TROs or the lore of specific design, specific loadouts that any of those three run. So that would give, uh, PGI a lot of leeway of designing those hero mechs similar to how they did for the Grey Death and the Pirate's Bane, and attributing both of those to Grayson Carlisle and Laurie Calmer Carlisle of the Grey Death Legion. So it'd be something different, and give PGI a nice little area where they can build their own fluff, which is kind of what they've been doing a lot with some of these mechs. A lot of the hero mechs they've designed and built are not things that are necessarily found in the canon lore as it stood for tabletop and even for the books. Some of it that they've dug out is very obscure lore that people had forgotten about, and they've breathed new life into it. Others are things that they've kind of retconned now. Their work with Catalyst has shown PGI's come up with this design, implemented it into MWO, and Catalyst has taken it and added it into the official history and canon of MechWarrior in BattleTech. So it's it shows a good relationship in terms of the game developer and the property holders.
And not to mention, this is just a side note. There's that other. I think people are speculating BattleTech license game coming out again there. Because we all know Tactics is under and over. I think they said that there's something else coming out in the BattleTech IP, something like that. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah, it's
there's something new. There's some new game that's a Wiseman property that they're coming out with. I don't think it's Shadowrun, so it's either like Crimson Skies or BattleTech. They're speculating. So
yeah, the only I've just looked through quick thing on Sarna. The only thing that it ever says about a kind of a hint as to what type of a loadout is run on one of the Thunderbolts. It mentions that after the Battle of Luthien, Christian Kell had his Thunderbolt modified with captured clan tech, which we already know from PGI that's probably going to not be the case for a while still. They are
the only way I could see that happening is if they do. Okay, this is getting into speculation area again, so disclaimer: I don't actually know anything going on or anything like that. But if they ever get into the 2C mech, so like the Highlander 2, or not the Highlander, but the Hunchback 2C and stuff like that.
Well, there is a Highlander 2C.
I know there is, but I would expect that to be. I don't expect it to have omnipods because they're not supposed to. I'd expect it to have its own custom loadout and that stuff like that, but be restricted like a little bit more like the clan. So you can't change the engine, you can't change the heat sinks, but all the equipment and stuff like that can come off, and you can use clan equipment. So, I don't know. Tons of stuff like that. But
I've heard some fairly interesting ideas for how PGI could work clan tech in. And the best one was that for CW contracts, if you're fighting in clans, you have a random number generator for where if you win on a clan planet or you win against a clan force, you have so much, depending on how much damage you do, how many mechs you kill, how many assists you get, all those various stats, you get X number of chances from the random number generator to recover a clan weapon, and that's the only way you can get one. So it's very similar back in the day to MechWarrior 2 Mercenaries, where if you were taking contracts late in the single player campaign against the clans, you had a chance to pick up a clan weapon. However, the limiting factor was you could pick up a clan ultra AC-10 and you wouldn't pick up ammo for it. So you'd have the weapon, and you wouldn't have ammo, so you'd be holding on to that weapon, hoping in the next contract that you'd pick up ammo for it, and you might never get ammo for it. So that's one of the more interesting ideas I've heard. It would definitely force people to play CW if they were ever interested in gaining any clan weaponry for their inner sphere mechs. But it's one of those things where PGI is right to be cautious because, as they've stated before, the use of clan weaponry on inner sphere mechs in past games has basically turned it into a race for clan tech, that the players that get clan tech first always win. That's the overall goal, and you never see inner sphere weapons being utilized ever again. So they're right to be cautious, and the less they talk about it, probably the best. It will, if they ever decide to do it. I'm sure Russ will be bringing that up in a major town hall if they ever decide.
Speaking of town halls, there's one June 25th. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, and full disclaimer, we are not saying that Russ is going to bring up the idea of using clan tech on inner sphere mechs in this upcoming town hall. That is completely coincidental.
Or are we? See, this is the point where we can say if he does bring it up, we called it. And if we don't, well, we were just speculating. It was all a tribute to previous MechWarrior games.
You're gonna get us so much hate mail. You know that.
Hey, we be getting hate mail every single episode. So It is a tradition for me to say something that someone doesn't like. It is an A.C.E.S tradition. But that being said, back to the original topic before getting sidetracked. The only thing I could see for a Thunderbolt hero mech that would make me want to buy it. I mean, I'm going to buy it anyway. I'm sitting on like 50,000 MC. Like I have nothing to spend MC on.
Only 50,000.
Only 50,000. I know. I'm just Mech Romney over here. The only thing I could buy, or the only thing, I mean, I'm going to buy the Hero Thunderbolt anyways, regardless. Whatever, I'm throwing MC at the wind. But the only thing that would actually make it really interesting is a ballistic on either the left or the right torso. One of them high-mounted ballistics on a Thunderbolt.
Well, it would have to be the right torso, considering the left torso is the lower mounted for the lasers.
But I mean, they could always make an exception, like you need.
Well, they'd have to change the cockpit around then.
Oh yeah,
because the cockpit sits.
It just wants to be a unique thing. But anyways, yeah, no, like right torso, high mounted ballistic, do it. I want it. I want it.
Yeah, I would say that's been one of the most popular speculations of a hero version of the Thunderbolt is something with a high mounted ballistic in that right torso. Really, that's the predominant.
That's like the only unique thing I could think of, because all the other variants of the Thunderbolt pretty much do everything else already. You got your missile builds, you got your laser spam. That's pretty much it.
That said, I will say there are very few missile builds that I ever see running on a Thunderbolt, mainly because they're all horrible, but they do happen. So I don't think we'll see one that's heavy missile. The idea of a ballistic one is probably the predominant thread that, and PGI is probably going to go that way. Don't know for certain, but I would bet good money on the Hero Thunderbolt having, if the Thunderbolt's ever going to get a high mounted torso ballistic slotted version, it's probably going to be the Hero, and that will of course have numerous people up in arms crying pay to win. But if that's the case, I'm going to have to shrug my shoulders.
Pay to AC20.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic. Sorry to cut you off there, Tiercron,
No
but I
problem.
kind of want to just power through this. Got two more topics to talk about, so hang with us. For I know we're hitting about an hour 10, hour 15. But stay with us, stay tuned. Let's talk about regional servers and how PGI is bankrupt and they're selling their wheelie chairs to pay for servers. No, but I mean, honestly, I think regional servers is great. I love how it's going to be kind of like an opt-in type thing. So I think the way that they described it, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's going to be like a little thing you can tick off what servers you want to be a part of. So if I'm in North America, I can tick off if I want to join the European search group or the Atlantic search group, or not the Atlantic, sorry, the Oceanic. I think they're saying Singapore servers.
Yes, that's been the predominant rumor, is that the Oceanic server is going to be in Singapore,
which is good. Singapore's great. I love Singapore. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that probably as well, but Singapore's
nothing
great.
wrong with Singapore.
I love
Singapore. As long as you don't go there and try to graffiti anything, then
or if you don't mess up washrooms or don't smoke or try to do illicit substances, because I mean that's all I think public beatings and execution. So best country in the world.
Also, have to be careful when you chew gum.
Yes, and smoking in public, you get a caning. Aside from international politics aside, Singapore I think is a great spot. From what I understand, it's very close to a lot of the Oceanic stuff. I know there's a couple. I want to say Eve has their servers in Singapore, and I think also in China. Not entirely sure. I think it's Singapore. Eve Online has their servers. I'm not entirely sure.
I think Singapore is the hub for most Oceanic. We're talking like Australia.
Usually
Indonesia,
Oceanic. It's usually Singapore, and I think for Asian servers. I think it's usually South Korea or China is where a lot of servers are. But yes, international servers, something that we've been waiting on for a really long time. Hopefully, will help a lot of people with those high pings halfway around the world.
Yep. They're hoping
and
for
the way that it's being implemented, I don't believe it's going to be splitting the player base a whole lot. Because, like I said, I think it's one of those things you can just tick off what servers you want to do a search for, and if they find a game in that selection pool that you've decided to search in, then matches you up. So again, you could still be in the Oceanic and still be searching North America servers for games. I mean, your ping might not improve, but hey, at least you're in prime time at your time. You should be able to find some games with better ping.
Yeah. What they're saying right now, they're hoping for July 21st for the European servers. Oceanic servers, they're looking at maybe sometime in August. They aren't certain on that yet. The goal of the servers is predominantly to get pings down. They're saying so far that there's going to be really no segregation. It's not, oh, you're in Europe, so you have to play on the European server, and you're going to have no interaction with anyone else outside of the European server. PGI's going, it looks like, this very smart route that I believe the developers of War Thunder have also implemented.
I think Severium does the same thing as well, which are the guys who did Stalker. I think theirs are the same thing. You can tick off what servers you want to be a part of.
They're taking note of what Gaijin did with War Thunder, and they're not segregating their population by server. They're basically just using their regional servers to make the game overall for the people in those geographical areas run better, while allowing a overarching game community, a global game community that can play together and run together and have fun together, which is probably a very expensive undertaking, but as a business deal, it's probably a very smart one to take, because it will endear your player base probably to you much more than you expect.
Yeah.
So servers are coming.
All around great thing. Very much needed for the game, I think. Especially if we're talking Steam release anytime soon.
Yes.
I think it's very good. I think another thing it shows is that PGI isn't going to be closing down any minute if they're buying new servers.
Yep.
And
the current rumor for the Steam release
current
is
rumor
this
that's
fall.
been going on for 5 years now is that PGI is going under any minute. That, or like I said, they just sold all the wheels off their chairs to pay for these servers.
Now they're just selling the wheels? I thought they had sold the entire chair before. Apparently they're doing much better than we originally thought.
They sold all the legs off the tables and all the wheels off the chairs.
They're using beanbags now.
Hey, the beanbags don't even have anything in them. They're just
Alex finds it a little bit odd to draw in,
there's
but
nothing inside the
adapts.
beanbags. It's just a flat plastic. But yeah, no, regional servers. I think it shows that PGI is actually having income come in, and that they're sustaining a player base that's actually paying. And I think that it shows that the game itself is being profitable. So that's what I'm taking out of that.
We also have a couple other things coming up for this next patch in July. The first July 7th patch. River City is on its way. They wanted to implement that earlier than July, but I guess they had some coding issues and some art
Probably
issues.
some last minute.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If the map is going to stay looking as nice as they've been teasing, i.e. with color, with a day-night cycle, destructible terrain, everything under the sun, that makes the map look so beautiful and so good that it is, that like my gyros can only get so pumped up. That yeah, I'm fine with the delay, even if it takes 2 months. Mind you, some people might not be happy, but if it's delayed by 2 months and it comes out and it's still looking as beautiful as it is, it still functions perfectly, and there's a lot of work done to it with the expansion, that sort of thing, and the gameplay's good, whatever. I don't care. Take as much time as you want, because as long as it looks good, I'll be happy.
Yeah. When they first announced that they were making the map changes and that they were just expanding the overall size of the map, I was very happy with that. The fact that we're now seeing dynamic lighting, day and night shifts,
Destructible terrain, like
terrain.
yeah, just so much work that's going into these
Yeah,
maps. Like, it's exciting.
yeah, it's fully it's fully acceptable that to have delays on that to make sure that it
Oh
works
yeah,
right.
absolutely. I'd rather have something delayed with a reason behind it than saying like, oh yeah, we're just delaying it.
Yeah. They're also going to be changing the some of the legging mechanics. They're removing legging stun lock, which, if you're not aware of it, previously, if your mech was legged, it immediately drops you to 15 kph, and you would then have to re-throttle back up to get to about 40 kph, or like a third of your speed, I think it was. I can't remember what it is on mechs that are in a certain speed threshold, but that the more damage your remaining leg took, that speed could drop further. I'm not sure if I like this change. I kind of like the idea that if the remaining leg that you have takes damage, that your speed could drop more. That seems logical, and personally, any mech that has someone attacking it after it's already lost a leg, I don't think they're running around very much trying to cross the map. So I don't know really why this change is being implemented, but someone apparently thought that it was a good idea.
I don't know. Let's move on to our final topic of this episode. Mechlab changes and suggestions, because we know that they are going to be touching back on the Mechlab again, adding a few things here and there. I think the most recent one is that they're going to be looking at, I think it was just announced in the roadmap, that they're looking back at the Mech Select screen set for August 4th. It says that they're going to incorporate all the player feedback, and we'll put out another big update for the front-end experience MWO. Excellent. Yeah. Fantastic. I think so far, this Mechlab is by far one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one was all right. Second one, I felt was a little bit of a step forward and a step back. Some stuff about UI 2.0 I really liked. Some stuff I really didn't like. I feel like this one currently is the best of both worlds, and the Smurfy stuff really actually helps out with that as well. So anything done to make the front end a little bit better, I'm perfectly all right with. So hopefully they get us our grid view back, so it's not all that. I don't mind the list as much as some people, but I did like the grid view a little bit more.
Yeah, the grid view's a little bit nicer. The list just feels kind of bland and
Well, yeah, it's bland. I find I can find mechs specifically that I want a little bit better, because I can just find the name, bring the list to that. Like, if I want to find the Centurion, I'm not scrolling through 150 plus mechs looking for the one specific Centurion I want, but rather I can just click Centurion, boom, they're all there.
Yeah.
But that being said, sometimes I just like scrolling through all my mechs and just being like, oh, what do I feel like playing today?
So we've got that.
I think the best way to implement that, I just want to talk about here for a second, is to do almost like with the Mechlab view, just have the option to switch back and forth between, do I want to look through all my mechs at the same time, or do I want to specifically search for one? So.
Yep. So we'll see how that develops. I guess we're supposed to be getting a few more details of that come July. Which, if they're aiming for August, yeah, of course, they're just setting it as a goal. It might not actually come out on the August 4th. It might be the second patch of August. We'll have to see what happens. That's something that's over a month away. Hopefully, so we'll see what they have up their sleeve. They say they've taken a lot of player feedback for it. It's going to be a big upgrade. So here's hoping. Here's hoping it's exactly everything everyone's been wanting, but I doubt PGI at this point can screw it up, because if they are truly listening to their community, I don't think they can. They'd have to, basically ignore everything that they've heard from the community in order to screw it up. So,
especially in the past 2 months, I've been finding, at least in the past little bit, PGI has been doing a good job listening to people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have zero question in my mind that it's going to be a good update.
Yeah. The other thing that they're talking about for the Mechlab, a couple Mechlab changes, Mechlab expanded view for 720p monitor resolutions. I run in 1080p. I know a couple people that run in 1440. Not a big deal for me, but many players out there that run at a 720p resolution. Apparently, this will be a big deal for them. It's going to help their view of the Mechlab. It's going to make things look a lot better and help them with using the Mechlab. So that's good to know that PGI is, making functions that, can take it, that every player, regardless of what hardware they're using, can properly play the game and utilize all the functions of the game. So, that's not anything exciting as new mechs or new maps, but overall, that's, a good thing to see. It shows good development tactics. It shows good rapport with your community that, you're taking those things into consideration. Final Mechlab thing is this one is odd because they didn't give us a lot of details on it in the roadmap. It says it's just Mechlab retrofits. Retrofits have been completed for the Awesome, Commando, Dragon, and Cicada. Also, the Centurion is going to get some minor changes to the look of its main right arm weapon. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but I'm thinking that little bit about the Centurion getting changes to its right arm is basically what their suggesting with retrofit is that we're going to see a slight geometry change with some of these mechs, which I know a lot of players have been calling for the Awesome to get geometry changes almost since it debuted. As everyone knows, the Awesome is nicknamed the barn door because it is the size of a barn door. You cannot miss it. The Dragon also has some geometry issues with the very large center torso and the overall size of it. The Cicada, some of the geometry of it. The Commando is very small, and I guess there's some geometry issues that it has. I'm not as familiar with the Commando and Cicada issues as I am with the Awesome and Dragon. So I'm thinking that this is some geometry change is coming to them on the July 7th batch, which, if they are, that could be very good. If it's not, I'm not at all sure what this might be. I don't know, Cattra, have you heard anything? Or, your inside line to PGI is, have you scoped any scoops out on what the Mechlab retrofits for these 5 mechs could possibly be? Well, 4 other than the Centurion.
No idea.
So,
no, I have no idea. I wasn't told. I haven't seen anything yet, so we'll wait and find out. Hopefully.
So.
Well, that's all the topics I got right now for this week's podcast. I mean, we're hitting about an hour and a half, so I think it's a good time to wrap up, and hopefully next week we have some juicy good stuff as well.
Yeah, I think we're all good.
All right, so you guys have been listening to the Armored Combat Escalation Service podcast. You're home to great bands like glam metal bands such as Laser Fist and Missile Fist. Keep an eye out for their newest album sometime soon. Maybe, I don't know.
Especially their single, I Want to Rock You Like an LRM Boat. But yeah, I'm totally waiting now for Heavy to come out with that song.
I'm just waiting for, we should sit down sometime and make a list of like an entire album for like Laser Fist or Missile Fist of just joke names for MechWarrior Online for like a glam metal band. I think that'd be a good time. I still got to commission Shimmering Sword to do us a fake album cover for Missile Fist or something like that.
Battle of the Bands, Laser Fist versus Missile Fist. Who will win?
the meta battle of the century. But yeah, no, that's everything for this week. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. And as always, downvote our threads on Reddit. Give me them dislikes on YouTube. We love it. We're going to continue doing it regardless of what you people say, because we just enjoy doing this. It's a fun time. I hope people actually enjoy this. Remember to give us feedback. I always take a look at that and try to consider it before discarding it into the garbage. So with that being said, I've been your host, Brandon, also known as Cattra, Kell. With me today has been Tirkron, and EL has been sitting quietly, making commentary in the chat, but not actually saying anything. So it's always good to see people here. So with that, and with all jokes aside, I actually really do appreciate everybody for listening. Don't actually discard your comments into the garbage. It's all fun and games. So until next time, everybody, take care, Mech Warriors.